members of the public who are joining us on this meeting. We are just about to start with the proposed agenda. But before we do that, may I just introduce the members of the regulator who would be presiding over this matter. First, I'll start with myself. My name is Tembani Pukula. I'm the chairperson of the Energy Regulator. We have in the meeting Ms. Zandile Mbungose, the deputy chairperson of the Energy Regulator. Ms. Mbungose.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to members of the public.
Thank you. Next, we have the CEO of the Energy Regulator, Advocate Nomalanga Sithole. Advocate Sithole.
Good morning, Chairperson, members, and everyone who has joined us for this particular meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next, we have the regulator member primarily responsible for piped gas as well as the electricity supply industry at NASA. It's Ms. Nomfundo Maseti.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to members and good morning to the members of the public that are following today's meeting proceedings. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. We have also Mr. Fungai Sibanda, who is the chairperson of the IT Governance Committee and a member of various committees of the Energy Regulator. Mr. Sibanda.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, colleagues and members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the chairperson of the Audit and Risk Committee and a member of various other NASA subcommittees, Ms. Zakit Sibia.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone on the call, including the members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have the regulator member primarily responsible for petroleum pipelines regulation at NASA, Mr. Muzuvugile Mkhize. Mr. Mkhize.
Good morning, Chairperson, members, management on call, as well as the members of the public that are following us through the various live streaming platforms. Thank you.
Thank you. We then have the chairperson of the Finance Committee and a member of the Electricity Subcommittee and other committees, Ms. Tembeka Semane. Ms. Semane?
Morning, Chair. Good morning to you and good morning to our members, our NASA colleagues, as well as the members of the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Those are the members of the Energy Regulator, and their introduction was to enable you to calibrate and know their voices as we deliberate on this. We are now on item number 3 on the agenda. Faye?
Apologies, Chair, to take you back. I just wanted to indicate that we have received apologies from executive management. They are attending a 2-day executive leadership and development program. I believe they have sent in their representatives to the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Faye. Colleagues, can I then take you to item number 3? Item number 3 is the agenda. We have only one item on the agenda. May I request that you indicate by raising your hand if you are in support of adopting the agenda? Mr. Kize, Ms. Semane, Ms. Mbungose, Ms. Sibia, Mr. Sibanda, Advocate Sithole, Ms. Maseti. Thank you. The agenda is adopted as such. We then have item number 4, the declaration of interest. If there's any member who would like to do a verbal declaration, please do so now by raising your hand. If not, members may request that if you could complete the declaration of interest forms and submit them to Faye as requested. Now on item number 5, is the report from the chairperson of the Electricity Subcommittee, Ms. Nomfundo Maseti. Ms. Maseti, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, today we have the report from the Electricity Subcommittee. This is a report relating to the application that we received from Eskom on the 6th of November 2024. And this application is for a negotiated pricing agreement that Eskom has concluded between itself and TransAlloy's ferroalloys operations in Mpumalanga. This report, Chairperson, is here for approval. This application was evaluated by the energy regulator using the interim long-term framework for negotiated pricing agreements, which focuses on retaining priority as well as strategic sectors in South Africa. Chairperson, this framework is its foundation from the electricity policy, pricing policy, and it is also supported by the provisions of the Electricity Regulation Act, in particular Section 15, where a licensee is required to charge a tariff that is approved by the energy regulator. So in agreements such as this one, where it deviates for reasons stated in the framework and reasons that are part of the policy imperatives, where it deviates from that tariff, it will need the approval of the energy regulator, and that is why it is here. Chairperson, that just to put a context of trans alloys in terms of its impact and its operations. Trans alloys is a major producer of manganese ferroalloys in the African continent, and it accounts for 80% of the world's high-grade manganese ore reserves. And the other point, Chairperson, that I just want to emphasize, and this is the point that is contained in the framework, it is that trans alloys operates at load factor of 85 or between 85 and 90%, with the projected base load sales of 800 to 850 gigawatts per annum. So that shows the significance then of any impact of electricity on the operations of trans alloys. And the issue of the load factor is one of the key factors that the framework mentions that they be taken into consideration should a tariff be negotiated between the two parties, or where the tariff needs to be reduced because of the impact. Chairperson, I just want to again indicate to the members that in terms of the tariff that has been negotiated under this agreement, it is stated on paragraph 4.6.2, the minimum base tariff that Eskom, if approved, that Eskom will charge trans alloys as of April, it's 2024 here, is a unit electricity price of R1.28 per kilowatt hour, and that excludes VAT. Now, in terms of the adjustments that will be made on this price, as it is going to be the base price in the next 6 years, this price will be adjusted using the South African PPI, and there will also be a plus 1% for the duration of the agreement. Chairperson, the other issues that were considered in terms of the deliberations at the ELS is the issue of just to understand the transformation aspects like the BE credentials and transformation, and that is already clarified by the team on paragraph 5.1 of the table that we have in the covering submission. And also the ELS requested that the team must also just clarify the impact of this agreement on Eskom's revenue, because that becomes important. And the team will come in, Chairperson. There is an explanation that is provided on page 26 of 93 of the RFDs. In particular, paragraph 7.5.19. However, I think the couching of it or the articulation of it may be misleading. So I will invite Pumla Bota to come in and just clarify that aspect so that it is very clear. Chairperson, I would like now to turn to the compulsory consultations as required in terms of Section 10. I would like to also indicate that this application was duly advertised and stakeholder comments were invited. However, when it comes to the public hearing, which is another platform to allow stakeholders to present facts and evidence to the energy regulator, the hearing was set down. However, there were no requests for presenters, and therefore it did not take place, and that was on the 7th of March. At this point in time, Chairperson, I would like to also just indicate that in terms of the analysis itself, the members will see for themselves on paragraph 6.1, where we summarized all of the key issues, as I already gave the context of the electricity pricing policy and also the role that TransAlloys plays and the impact on the economy. And I've already touched on the tariff itself, and also the issue of the cost-benefit analysis if these tariffs were not to be approved by the energy regulator, and also the impact on other users or on the shortfall or revenue shortfall for Eskom, if there's going to be any, and all of the other factors that are relevant in terms of this. There's under 6.1. Having said that, Chairperson, I would like to now take the energy regulator to the decision that is sought. That decision is on paragraph 15 of the covering submission. It is requested by the Electricity Subcommittee that the energy regulator approves the application as well as the reasons for decision for Eskom's holding SOC Limited 6-year negotiated pricing agreement for TransAlloys manganese ferroalloys operations in Mpumalanga. As indicated, Chairperson, this will be effective as of 1st April. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, if you allow me, I would like to invite Pumla Bota just to deal with the issue of that revenue shortfall, just to correct the way in which it is articulated. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson of the Electricity Subcommittee, and Pumla Botha in the meeting. You have the floor.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chair, and members, as well as colleagues on the call. Well, the issue of the revenue shortfall, what we've done as a team, we've worked out what revenue Eskom would have collected under the standard tariff by TransAlloys, and then we had a revenue, and then we worked out all the costs associated to serve TransAlloys, and then we came to a contribution margin. And then we've also worked out, on the contrary, what the proposed tariff, what revenue the proposed tariff would yield. And then of that, we worked out the difference of the standard tariff and the proposed tariff, and we arrived at a number, and that would have been the shortfall from Eskom's revenue. That's how we've done the calculation, Chairperson. But the tables that we have displayed on the RFD, the first one, which is table 4, it's the one relating to the negotiated pricing agreement, which is the 128. And then the table on table number 5, it denotes the shortfall. We did not see the need to actually display what it would have been under the standard tariff, because that is not what we are evaluating now. We are evaluating the impact of the negotiated price. I'm not sure if Chairperson is covered with that explanation.
Thank you, Ms. Botha. Ms. Botha, it's fine. I'm going to explain what I mean, but before I do that, if you may allow, Ms. Massetti, if I can get the other questions of the other members, if they have any, but then I will come back to this issue. I have Ms. Sibiya. First, let me confirm, Ms. Maseti, are you fine with that we continue with that? We'll come back. Oh, thank you, Ms. Maseti.
Yes,
I've got Ms. Sabia, then after Ms. Sabia, I've got Ms. Mane. After Ms. Mane, I've got Mr. Mkize. In that order, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the presenters, Ms. Maseti and also Ms. Potter. I think, Chair, my question also lies to what Ms. Potter just now spoke about, because I'm looking at the learnings from a previous transaction. I think it was ferrochrome, where there were losses due to a price which was less than the Megaflex. And that was years ago. And it created a lot of noise out there until that contract was renegotiated. And I think now it's no more linked to the price of ferrochrome. But this one, it is different in the way that there is a minimum price. So my question is, the comparison between the minimum price and the Megaflex, to say how far are we there, because obviously above the minimum there is a share of profits between Eskom and the company concerned. But the issue is, wouldn't we be seen as promoting crop subsidization when we have such prices and we don't show the impact when of the difference between Megaflex and the proposed price that we are proposing? I can see on page 30 of 97, you do show the revenue shortfall when you are comparing the 128, the NPA price. Also, and when you're showing that shortfall, the question that might arise is that the issue of cross-subsidization will come again. How are we going to talk to the public with regards to that? Because the total amount comes to actually 1.8 billion. When you look at the time of the contract, it's a short contract. 6 years is short relative to what we see out there, which is 20-year contract. So I think we need to engage on that topic to say, how do we reflect on that issue? Because I remember that previous contract was a very noisy issue. I do understand, team, that we need to promote the industry. We need to have NPAs. I'm not against having NPAs, but we need to talk about how do we deal with this revenue shortfall and its impact, not only to Eskom, as they are going to share on the upside, but then there's a question on the downside, but also then to the other customers. What is the impact, and that impact of crop subsidy? I think we need to talk about in comparison with other customers who are still at Megaflex. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Sabia. We have Mr. Mane, then Mr. Mkiz, and then Mr. Sbanda. Mr. Mane?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to Madam Maseti and to Ms. Botha. From my side, Chair, is a question of asking the team whether on this decision or the next one that they also give us a sneak preview in terms of how other jurisdictions are treating these. For example, my question comes from the fact that, number one, when we had the public hearings on MYPD6, when the industrial customers came to present, they did bring it to the regulator's attention that most of our industrial customers are being lured to other international jurisdictions because of cheap electricity. If they can touch on that one, and if when they present this, they can just show us what other jurisdictions are doing and how much are they charging in terms of the industrial, in terms of their industrial customers, whether it's the mega flex or industrial tariffs or something above and beyond the NPAs. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Samani. Ms. Mane, there's a table in the submission, though. I just want to check before they respond. If are you saying that that is not sufficient, or because there's a table that shows where this tariff will be, what Russia and other jurisdictions are. Are you saying that they expand that, or Saman?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair. They should expand that. Like, for instance, if I can make another example beyond what we've got, we know as a matter of public information that is there that US is evangelical in terms of saying companies should come and establish their manufacturing base. I don't know. For instance, I do know for things like data centers, they are very explicitly promising them cheaper electricity and all that. So those kind of little bit of deep dives would assist. Yes, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Saman. Mr. Mkhize and then Mr. Spanda.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thanks, Madam Massetti and Madam Botha. From my side, I think just to emphasize the need to flow from having the framework, maybe if it can be highlighted, because things flow from I take them to be flowing from the framework in terms of cheap electricity, because we know that years ago those plans were established mainly due to that consideration, amongst other things. But with changes over the years, it becomes a different story. So some of the things that we need not necessarily explain, as they are covered in the framework itself in terms of where we are now. And I would appeal that if one looks at 4.6.3.2, which talks to the upside, if you may just express it in a simpler language, just write it for just consider or have non-technical people in mind in crafting that, just so that it can be made much simpler. If it means putting additional 1 or 2 sentences, I think so should it be. And then when it comes to the conditions on page 14, for example, of 97, if you can, I take it that the submission is still going to go through, and the decision and RF and reasons for decision document still going to go through language editing, because I think that there can be some work that is done around those conditions. If you take, for example, 6 on page 14 of 97, I think they must consume an N. It shouldn't be an O, because they can just simply forecast and not meet that forecast, and there's actually nothing that can be done around that. And I think the same talks to 7, just to do some correction, language editing. I'm saying that because if it is a condition, how things are crafted in the language also matters a lot. There can be points of disputes, if I can put it like that. And I think what we also need just to do is to ensure that these are sent through to the language editor, as I said earlier on. From my side, I'm covered, and as a member of the LS, I do support this submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize, for your inputs and the enhancements proposed. Mr. Spanda?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Ms. Massetti and the team. Chair, mine are probably concentrated mostly around the decision. Maybe following on what Mr. Mkhize has indicated, the first one is actually decision number 6 on page 14. So the framework provides for the minimum performances that we should consider. And Transalloys does meet the minimums, but I'm just wondering whether we should be going with the minimum in such an agreement, because take, for instance, the 80 gigawatt hours per annum that is in the framework. Transalloys is already performing 10 times that. And in terms of the load factor, they are operating at between 85 and 90%. So my question is, should we not be then perhaps setting those performances instead of going with instead of stating what the minimums in the framework are? The second one is 7. So I just noticed, Chair, that most of the terms that are in the application, we have somehow summarized them in the decision. But I think in our summary, perhaps we have also left out certain, I don't know whether it's the detail that in a way, maybe, yeah, the things might get lost in translation. So for instance, with 7, that 3 months written notice to cancel the agreement only kicks in after there has been an attempt to reach agreement and after that agreement has been presented to NERSA, for instance, and if NERSA doesn't approve, then the agreement gets cancelled. So I was just wondering whether by summarizing the terms, are we not losing certain important detail? And then I was also a bit confused by the implementation date and how it's couched, and perhaps it's also an interpretation issue, I must say. That's decision 2. Sorry.
Sibiya, I think it's your mic that's on.
So decision 2 talks to the commencement date being the first day of the month, 1 calendar month after NERSA's approval. And I must say, I struggled a little bit with interpreting what that means, whether it's the 1st of April or the 1st of May. So I'll propose that perhaps we just put the actual date, Chair, because in the application, ESCOM says by the 1st of April. So maybe let's just rather go with the actual date. And then the other terms that probably I was wondering whether we should be indicating them as well, are contained in the in the application itself. I'm trying to get there. Sorry, Chair, my convenience stuck a bit, but that's on page 52. So the 2 that I wanted to check is the notifiable maximum demand rules for demand exceedances. I don't see that in the decision, as well as the maximum tariff that it should not exceed the mega flex after taking into account all the various components. So yeah, I didn't see those, as well as the reopener clause or condition. I think that's on page 53. That's number, I think that's a 14. Yeah, whether we should be having those as part of the decision. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sibanda. Colleagues, we we are going to respond to this, but before the response, I just want to indicate the issue that I had raised around I think it's page 30 of 97. If you look at paragraph 7.5.19, there we are saying that the shortfall will be 19.2 million rand, and this is equivalent to 5.2% of the revenue that Eskom would forego. It may very well be true if we're talking about only 5.2 of the revenue that Eskom would forego in trans alloys only. But I think the question that I was asked that may have resulted in this was of the total revenue. So 19.2 can never be 5.2% of the total revenue of Eskom. So either we say that part of the revenue that Eskom forgoes in this particular one. But the reason I was also stressing that is because if you go to 7.5.2.0, we also have a statement there that it must not exceed 5% of the total Eskom revenue sales. And I think by putting that statement, we are now also going to have to go back and check that the NPAs of Glencore, the NPAs of South 32, and this NPA don't breach that, and because we are also not saying that it doesn't breach that. So that those are the two enhancements. In the other one, we just indicate that we are talking about the revenue that Eskom forgoes in the trans-alloy ones, not in the total total revenue of Eskom. And when we talk on 7.5.2 about the total revenue, then we can include the other ones. I'm not sure if I'm clear, colleagues, in what I'm trying to point out here. But if I'm not, please, Ms. Massetti or Ms. Botha, ask me to explain some more. So we're going to go back now to Ms. Massetti, to you responding to the issue that have been raised. I think Ms. Sia raised specific points around that this cross subsidy of 1.8 billion rand in total over the duration of this. Can we say something about that? And I think in parts of the document we do talk about that, but if you could add, Ms. Massetti, that the part where we are indicating, talking more about the 1.8. With Ms. Semane, I think all we need to do, colleagues, is to add, I know we compared with the BRICS countries, can we add the US and maybe some European countries and some Asian countries as well? With Mr. Mkhize, I think Mr. Mkhize has indicated that we add a sentence on 4.6.2.4 around the risk sharing or profit sharing. Just a line that makes it understandable to non-technical people. And I think Mr. Sbanda, the issue that Mr. Sbanda is raising is that let's rather take the decision and make it like not truncate it or summarize what we really are approving. Can we put everything that that is in our actual document that we are approving, put it as a complete paragraph in the approval? Then we will not be losing out other things, and we just add the actual dates and also include the notified maximum demand, the maximum tariff, and the reopeners as part of the decision. Ms. Massetti, that's for me the summary of what the members have, but if you could maybe just respond then to Ms. Sabia in particular, and I think the rest were suggestions or enhancements that the members were proposing. Ms. Massetti?
Thank you, Chairperson. Indeed, Chairperson, I would not want to waste time on the enhancements that were proposed by the members, and those will be incorporated. With regards to the issue of the subsidies, I would like to invite Charles, Chairperson, if you allow me, because he will be in a position to put a straight sort of answer with regards to the extent to which these companies contribute to the subsidies, so that the issue that is raised by Ms. Sibiya can be clarified. I would like to ask for Charles to clarify that issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Masset. Mr. Geldert?
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to all the members and the people online and colleagues. The point is that with what we check is that with this tariff, the complete variable costs of the energy supplied to TransAlloys is covered. And then there's an extra portion which also contributes towards covering the fixed costs. If it does not cover the full portion of the fixed costs, that balance is picked up by the standard tariff customers. However, the issue really is this, that if this facility were to close down, it's not just the uncovered portion of the standard of the fixed cost, which would be picked up by the standard tariff customers. It's the whole portion. And therefore, if they had to pay a small portion towards the fixed cost with TransAlloys, with the NPA, without the NPA and TransAlloys closing, they will pay a much bigger portion. And I think in the MYPD6 application and the analysis of that, Eskom provided us with a calculation which showed that if those loads, which were the NPAs, had closed down, the price would have been something like 3.9% higher than it would be otherwise. So, though you can argue that there is some support from or some pickup from the standard tariff customers, it's a lot less than it would be if this plant were to close. And TransAlloys have indicated that they will close if they don't get a proper don't get the assistance of the NPA. I'm not sure if that answers the question fully. Thank you.
Mr. Geldert, I think the part that Ms. Massetti also wanted you to talk about is the subsidies that these companies pay. The cross subsidy, the affordability, the electrification, and the other,
these companies pay a huge amount. In actual fact, their contribution in terms of the variable cost towards the subsidies of the rural and the affordability subsidy amounts to some 19.6% of the energy that they consume. So for every if you like, for every 10 Rand that they spend on energy, you have to add another almost 2 Rand, which goes to the subsidies, and that is so that would make their total energy cost 12 Rand, and that is being covered by that variable cost is being covered by the tariff. Is that what you want, Mr. Lukula?
Yes, Charles. I think, Ms. Massetti, may I just confirm with you that that's also the angle you wanted Charles to put across?
Exactly, that is the angle, Chairperson, because by doing this, at least they will try to reduce the substantial subsidy that these companies are contributing, because the reality is that they do contribute substantially on the subsidy. So that's why I wanted that question be clarified by Charles for Ms. Sibiya. In terms of cross-subsidization, it is not subsidizing these companies. In fact, the reality is that these companies are contributing more on the subsidy. And by doing this, at least you're trying to reduce the impact of those subsidies on these companies. If I were to simplify it that way, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Maseti. Ms. Maseti, I'm not cutting you. I just want to check with Mr. Beer. Mr. Beer, I think the argument being put across is that yes, the in the tariff there's that 1.8 billion rand subsidy that appears, but in us keeping them, there's that contribution that they make of around, as Charles has indicated, 19% of the amount that they are paying. It does exceed that 2 billion rand that would subsidize them by. So in a way, taken from one pocket, but we put more on the other pocket. Mr. Deer, may I come back to you before I go back to Ms. Maseti?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the explanation. Yeah. Yes, I do understand. But I think whenever we come out there, even in the public, that is what we always need to put forward, because they always have this bad side of knowing the impact of NPA and prices which are less than the standard price or the mega flats. So we need to always mention that there is a bigger picture. But I'm fine from my side. Thank you. Thank you for the explanation.
Thank you, Mr. B. Ms. Maseti, I think you were still talking when I came in. Please come in again.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. You've added in trying to clarify to the members that aspect. Now that we are on that aspect, Chairperson, there was a question raised by Madam Sbia with regards to how do we deal with these revenue shortfalls? And if one now moves from the explanation that has just been provided to say that they contribute more on the subsidy. The question is then, and this is something that needs to be dealt with going forward, is that obviously they will now, customers will start feeling that aspect, because they are reducing on the contribution, and therefore it goes back to customers. The question is, from a viewpoint of affordability, how that needs to be dealt with. So that's something that, Chairperson, we cannot respond to here and now, but it is something that needs careful consideration if the subsidy or these companies are reducing on the subsidy, because these companies are also impacted adversely by the huge subsidy that they are paying. So it is something that going forward we need to sit as a regulator and talk about it. And it is not something that we will be in a position to respond to here and now. Thanks, Chairperson. I just wanted to clarify that point, that it is something that we need to look at deeply as the regulator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Chair, if Chairperson,
yes, Mr. Mazet, go ahead.
If I take the point I wanted to clarify so that the colleagues understand that what will be reflected in terms of the shortfall is not the shortfall in respect of the total revenue of Eskom, but just in respect of TransAlloys, the revenue that Eskom used to derive from TransAlloys, and what now that shortfall is going to be. I just want to clarify that that aspect will then be dealt with. Thanks, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Maseti. Colleagues, members, Mr. Sabanda, may I just check with you that I think the proposal that you came with that we're adopting is the one of putting the decision with the detail that has been provided in the actual application and in what we are considering. Would that cover the issues that we had? I think the one of the date is a given. We're going to put in 1st of April. And any other thing that I may have omitted in your proposal and in your inputs, Mr. Sband?
Chair, it was just the level of performance, but maybe I can drop that because, maybe it might complicate the decision at this stage, Chair. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think, Mr. Sbanda, if I may go to that, I think we are governed by the framework as well, and maybe imposing that they operate at that level when there is the minimum that we have. We may also be seen as putting in an extra condition that that is not supported by the policy nor the ESCOM rules. So that's why I was saying maybe we leave it at that. We know at what level they perform, and it's also written in part of the decision and the conditions that when they go lower than their actual performance, the tariff is also going to be higher. Will that assist, Mrs. Band? I saw your thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Colleagues, can I then take you? I think Ms. Massetti has read out the decision, but what we are also saying is that, especially in paragraph 6 and 7, and changing the date, that we are going to add the detail that comes from the actual document, and we are also adding the date of the 1st of April. With those modifications and FA, are you comfortable that we are leaving it at that we are going to add on what is on paragraph 6 and 7 and change the date, and that the decision that Ms. Massetti read out is the decision that I'm going to ask members to approve on? Thank you. Members?
Chairperson?
Yeah.
I just want some clarification in the sense that if you look at the recommendation on page 10 and you look at the decision on page 13, which is more detailed, is this the one that you're referring to?
Yes, and that like on paragraph 6 and 7, they also pull the other detail in here. Okay? You find, Faye?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Members, may you please indicate by raising your hand if you are in support of approving the recommendations as read out by Ms. Massetti on page 10 and referred to on the reasons for the decision on page 13. I've got Mr. Mkize, Mr. Spanda, Ms. Samane, Advocate Sitole, Ms. Mbungose, Ms. Massetti, and Ms. Sabia. Thank you. We have approved. Ms. Massetti, from your side, anything additional before I move to closing the meeting?
Nothing else, Chairperson, and thank you to the colleagues for the support of the decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, we are at the point where I'm going to thank the members of the public and thank them for their attention. And I think, as it has been customary now, members of the public hear who says what in these meetings, and in some cases they would approach those people with differing views on the outside. I think this is part of what we have to do, but here we take decisions as the collective, and we thank you for your time, and we hope that you are encouraged by our deliberations, and that we consider all of the matters that have to be considered and still work within the confines of the laws that have established us. Thank you for your time. The meeting is now closed. Ms.
Thank you,
Maputa,
Chairperson.
please.